Now we're going to do the coding. Coding is a very important step in the analytical process because this is where you read through all the data that you collected in your files and you start to compare, to see patterns, to see contradictions, and you actually organize your material into these codes or these categories that say something meaningful about your data, meaningful in light of the research questions you're interested in. Yeah. So I have organized my files here into 3 folders. As you can see, I have articles by international organizations. I have journal articles. I have newspaper articles. Of course, for the sake of the exercise, I have a limited number of files here. When you're going to write your end of module paper or your master dissertation, you will have many more files. And so NVivo is going to be a very useful tool to collect all the information and to start analyzing this information. This research project is, as I said, about the impact of the COVID-19 crisis on poverty. Let's say we want to understand the impact still on a pretty general level in different countries. Yeah, so this was the general problem that has guided the way in which we have searched for these files. Now, starting from that research ID, I might have actually a few codes that I can already create beforehand because I'm now going to, under codes, I'm now going to notes because this is where I'm going to create my notes. So let's say I'm interested in the impact on poverty. So one of my notes could be the poverty rate. I want to know whether the poverty rate is increasing or decreasing, right? So from the start, I want to create this note poverty rate, assuming that some of my data will speak to it and that I can gather information on this note here. So how do I create a new note? There's 2 ways to do this. Either you just go in the detail view here, so there's nothing yet, but I can right click and there you have new note. So I'm interested in the poverty rate. You can add a description if you want, giving some more information on what you mean by this note, because the name of the note as such should preferably be short, which makes it much more practical to work with. So you click on OK, and you have created the note poverty rate. I'm also assuming that the change in poverty rate has something to do with the extent to which the country has been impacted by COVID. So as a second note, I want to create COVID impact. So I could right click, as I have done before, but I can also go to the Create tab here on top. So go to Create, and here you can also create new notes. So create note, COVID impact. Okay. I might also assume that the way in which the government has handled the COVID crisis plays a role in what the impact will be. So as a third note, I right click now, make a new note, and I'm going to call it government response. Okay. So these 3 notes are based on my understanding, my initial understanding of the research problem, and my assumption or hypothesis, if you want, that the impact on poverty in a particular country is influenced by the way in which the government responds to the crisis. Now, while going through my data, I may find that this is confirmed or refuted, or I might even find that in the files, I do not find any information about these nodes. So in this process, I might even decide to discard some nodes or to reformulate some nodes. So the next step will be now to go through my files, look at the content, look at the raw data as such, and see whether I can start coding them. So you go back to files. Let's go to journal articles. Let's take this one here, the one by Suryadi. Because I'm interested in comparing different countries. So I'm going to do a comparative study taking as the unit of analysis individual countries. Remember that the unit of analysis in NVivo here are the cases. The cases can be persons, organizations, places. In here, there are countries. So actually, as this article is about Indonesia, the whole content of the article says something about Indonesia. So what I can do now is to code this entire article at the case of Indonesia, so that afterwards I can find everything that relates to Indonesia. I can find it back under the case of Indonesia. Remember that I've already created Indonesia as a case previously. So if I want to code this file now at this case, I can again right click. So right click on the title, because here you want to code the entire file. So I right click, you click on code, and it's not under nodes, but it's under cases. So I had created Indonesia before, so I can now just click on Indonesia, click on OK, and now it has been coded. But let's also take a look in this file. It's a working paper, so let's just go to the abstract and we start reading it. Okay, so there's some interesting information here, for instance, on economic growth. So let's select this sentence, because this is about the economic growth projections in Indonesia. We don't have this node yet. It's a new node. So we're going to create it now. There's actually three ways in which we can code. So I'm going to show all of them to you. The first one, the one that works well for me, is to right click. Oh, sorry, I lost the sentence there. So you select the sentence, you right click on the sentence, and you go to code again, code. It's not in our list yet, so we want to create a new node. So here at the bottom, you see new node. You click on it, and we call it economic growth. Okay, so you see a little pop-up here that says that it has been coded. Okay, here is some information about the poverty rate. So poverty rate is a node that we did create before. So now I'm going to show you a second way in which you can do the coding. And among these three ways, of course, you can decide for yourself which one works best for you and systematically apply that one. At the bottom here, you see you have what's called the quick coding bar. So it's always shown here. And so here you can, in this field here, you can just type the name of the node you want to code this content to. So remember, we already have created this node for poverty rate, and this is about poverty rate. So I'm just going to do PO, and I see poverty rate. I click on it. And then to actually code it, you need to go to this icon here, the arrow with the green check, and you click on it. That's the second way, the quick coding bar. Okay. Okay, look at the last sentence, maybe interesting as well. So the last sentence actually gives some recommendations on how countries could deal with this poverty impact. So we want to code this also at a new node, let's say recommendations. And I'm now going to show you the third way in which you can do it. So for that, we need to go up. We go up to this, this bar here, the list bar. And you will see an icon here that says code. Yeah, code. New node. Recommendations. Okay. If you have made a mistake, you can also uncode, by the way. So it's the same process. So the same three ways can be used to do this. So if you right click, you can here uncode. You can uncode from recent nodes, and these are the recently coded nodes. So you just click on it and then you uncode, or you can go to uncode and then tick this box, recommendations, and then click OK when you made a mistake. So I have coded now 3 references in this text. And I can close it now. We can save, but NVivo will automatically ask you every 15 minutes if you want to save your changes. But so if you want to close the text as such on the little, so let me open it again. So this little cross here, yeah, you can do it without any problems. It's not going to make your changes disappear. All right, so we have coded this journal article. Of course, again, just a small part of it, just for the sake of the exercise. Let's now do one other, this one, the UNCTAD one. So double click on it to open it. Let's have a look. Okay, there's something here about the poverty rate. So these sentences, yeah. Again, if I use the quick coding bar, you go to the bottom and you just do PO, poverty rate. And don't forget to click on the icon here with the arrow and the green check. So this has been coded at poverty rate. Now read the next paragraph, the interplay between the outbreak, the contraction in demand globally. So what we see here is a reference to the global causes of the economic crisis. So let's select this sentence. This is about the contraction in global demand. So let's use the right-click method now. So I'm going to right-click, code, a new node. And you call it global demand. Okay. And then the next sentence is about international commodity prices as another cause of the economic crisis. So again, right-click, code, new node. commodity prices. Okay, let's have a look on the next page. Here is something interesting as well. It talks about the fact that the majority of laborers are in the informal economy. And so that for them, their income is highly impacted. Let's make a new node as well. Let's call it informal economy. So we can right click, or we can also use the quick coding bar for new nodes, informal economy. So you just type the name of the node that you want to create and you click again on the green check, and then it will be created as a new node. And there's another important element here as kind of an indirect transmission channel that can exacerbate poverty in the longer run, and this is about education. So if I use a quick coding bar again, I just type education, I click on the green check, and I have created a new node. So we can again close this. And here you actually see in these columns, you see these numbers, 5. So this means that the file has been coded at 5 different codes. And there is 5 different references. So for each code, there is one reference. So suppose that you had different paragraphs throughout the text talking about the informal economy, then you could have more references here than codes, obviously. It's, by the way, also possible to code at multiple nodes. So let me open this again to show this. So let me just take the first paragraph, right click, go to code, and then you can select codes, but you can just hold your control button, hold control, and click as many as you want, and then OK. Because obviously one paragraph, even one sentence or a couple of words can give you information about several of these codes. So I'm not going to do it here because it doesn't have any meaning in this case. So now we want to check what we've done. So let's go to our codes, nodes here. And you will see that I have created 9 different nodes. So some of them were there before, some of them have been generated through reading the data. I now actually might start to organize these nodes to see whether different nodes can cluster together, whether they speak about the same kind of aspect of the research problem. And I'm thinking about these causes. So I said there's some information about the global causes of the crisis. And so these were global demands and commodity prices. So these two are actually linked together. They are both causes. So I would want to make a new node now, causes, and I actually want to create these two as subcategories. In NVivo, this is called a parent node with child nodes. So we create a new node. Again, you can just, in this white empty space here, you can just right click, new node, I call it causes. And I want to create commodity prices as a child node under causes. It's very easy. I can just drag and drop it in there. Or you could right click and then cut and paste. And global demand, the same. So I drag and drop it under causes. You will see that this little plus sign appears. You can open it and you can see that both nodes are here. Now, if you wanted to explore now the content of these nodes, like what's inside these containers, let's take economic growth here. You double click on it to open it. Now you open the node and you will find all the sentences, all the paragraphs that you have coded with each time a reference. So this, if you click on this hyperlink, it brings you back to the original article so that you can see this phrase in its context. And of course, if you have done many of those, you will see here a list of everything that is said in the different files on economic growth. So this is now something that you can use as a basis for your writing. So there we go. We have created new nodes. We have created new nodes on the basis of the data. We have coded parts of the data at existing nodes. I have shown you how you can also uncode when you made a mistake. If one of these codes doesn't make sense for your analysis, so at some point you decide, okay, there is nothing about COVID impact, for instance, you can just right-click on it. Right-click, sorry. And then go to delete here. Delete. Of course, if there is content coded under this node, you also lose. You don't lose the content because it's still in the file, but you lose the reference. You lose the part that has been. You lose the link to the code. So that's it for the coding. You can now practice a little bit on your own. Good luck.